Hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about CSS so you can turn your bland HTML into something beautiful. If you do not already know HTML, then check out my Introduction to HTML series where I walk you through everything you need to know about HTML. I will not be covering every property or option that CSS has to offer because there are hundreds, but I will be covering all of the concepts you need to know in order to get started with CSS. Let's first get started with what CSS is. A common misconception is that CSS is a programming language, but that is incorrect. CSS is actually a styling language, which is used for modifying the appearance of the content of web pages. Just as HTML is used for the content of web pages, CSS is used for presentation of that content. Due to the fact that CSS is used for presentation and design, there are many ways to do the same thing. HTML, on the other hand, has set elements for most things, which means that there is usually only one correct way to do things in HTML. The ability to do things in many different ways is the reason most people either love or hate CSS. I personally love it since it lets you express your creativity and gives you freedom to do things how you want. Now that we understand what CSS is, let's dive into the details of how to use CSS. First, we need to discuss the syntax of CSS. Luckily, the syntax is straightforward and easy to understand. The first part of the syntax is the selector. There are many different types and combinations of selectors, which we'll talk about later, but for now, all you need to know is that a CSS style starts with a selector to apply the style to. Next comes an opening and closing curly bracket that are used to denote the start and end of the styles that apply to the selector. Everything in between these curly brackets will be styles that are applied to the HTML elements that match the selector. Lastly, inside the curly brackets is one or more property value pairs. Each of these pairs defines a property, such as color, font size, width, etc., and a value for that property. A basic example of the CSS syntax will be setting the text color.
Innovation doesn't happen on its own. It needs leaders to drive it. The bootcamp is